Warren Bell made headlines and good money as the first black TV news anchorman in New Orleans. Today on Folks, he'll tell us his story on how he almost lost it all to cocaine.
This year, Folks has a new theme song composed by Maynard Baptiste of Baton Rouge. We'll tell you the story behind the composer and the composition today on the season premiere of Folks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sonya Masingale.
And I'm Robin Hinton, News and Public Affairs Director here at LPB. Today, Folks is starting a new season. Its sixth, as a matter of fact. We're glad to be back and happy that you're joining us. This year, Folks has a new look and a new theme song. The song we'll be talking about later. Due to financial constraints, we'll be doing less traveling this year, but we promise to continue bringing you quality programs on issues and concerns pertaining to Louisiana's minority communities. Sonya will be doing a great deal of the work this year as I devote my time to our other public affairs program, Louisiana, the state we're in. But I'll be around each week with a feature on some fascinating person or people in our community. Our program today, however, begins with a very serious subject, cocaine abuse.
That's right, Rob. Whether you snort it, shoot it, or smoke it, cocaine abuse can cost you more than money. It wrecks careers and ruins lives. No one knows that better than Warren Bell.
Warren Bell was the first black television anchorman in New Orleans. He had recognition and a generous salary until he was introduced to freebased cocaine, these days known by its street name, crack. Bell's involvement with cocaine cost him his job and subsequently got him arrested. His career was ruined. Since then, he has been struggling to rebuild his life and his career. He has found that the road back is not easy.
I got more and more into the drug, Sonya, and got to the point where it seriously impacted my performance on the job. Not so much my on-air performance, but it was a case of not having any kind of positive attitude at all. I was very, very negative at the station. I would leave the station after the 6 o'clock news and not come back till 9:30 or so, just before the newscast. That was my way of getting even, if you will. I wound up doing that a few times too many. In an earlier conversation with management about some of the problems I had at WDSU television, I had already admitted to them that I was having a substance abuse problem and indicated to them that I would seek help. I did attempt to speak with a psychiatrist once or twice, but found the initial visit an unwelcome experience, an uncomfortable experience, and I guess, if the truth be told, I guess I really wasn't ready to give it up psychologically. And I played around with that, but basically continued to experience this problem. And it's a problem, it's a disease. You can't stop once you start doing it. If you get more money, the first thing you think about is getting a little more of the drug.
Bell admits that he was angry over the hiring of a well-known co-anchor, and that anger, fueled by his increasing dependence on cocaine, was affecting his job performance. He had already admitted to the management at Channel 6 that he was having trouble with cocaine abuse, but he still did not give up his habit.
There I was, coming in late again, and I was called upstairs and told I had a choice to resign for whatever reasons, or to have them dismiss me at the end of the first year of a 2-year contract, and if challenged why they were letting me go, that they would have to let the world know that I had already admitted to them that I had a substance abuse problem. Confronted with that choice, my decision was, of course, to leave voluntarily. I was told they would continue to pay me for a month, so I said, well, I've got a little bit of a cushion, not much though, because I was spending every penny I had, making $50,000, but not putting a dime in any savings or anything like that. Managed to pay most of my bills, but every other penny I had was frankly gone up in smoke.
Bell says he was set up by the New Orleans Police Department about a year before he was arrested.
And I guess it was early March, 3 months after leaving Channel 6, that I was planning to leave New Orleans. In fact, all of my luggage was packed, all of my clothing was packed away. The moving people came to my house at 7:30 in the morning, and at 8:30, the New Orleans Police Department arrived to arrest me and charge me with distribution of cocaine.
Bell's arrest led to an appearance before the grand jury at the federal courthouse in New Orleans. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of possession of cocaine and received 2 years suspended sentence. Before he went to court, Bell was hired by WYLD Radio as news director, but he was determined to rebuild his television career.
It took some talking to someone else, not a psychiatrist, but a psychologist, a counselor who had been referred to me by a friend of the family, and we spent a good 6 or 8 months talking about some of the things that were going on in my life leading up to the development of this problem, and how the problem, or how using the drug, seemed to coincide with my different peaks and valleys of frustration with being the black weekend anchor who felt he should have been pushed up earlier, and who then felt incensed when another anchor of a different hue, if you will, came in and was suddenly making almost twice my salary. Rather than say, well, I'll wait till my contract's up and then I'll get a good lawyer to negotiate my salary upwards, I just could see nothing beyond the fact that at that point in time, I was playing second fiddle to someone else. And now I look back at that and say, gee, what a silly 29-year-old man you were, because now at 35, I say, I could work with Godzilla as my co-anchor, and it wouldn't matter because you got a job to do, and nothing beats being on.
Bell now holds several jobs: teaching mass communications at Dillard University, editorial consultant at the New Orleans Tribune News magazine, and a weekly public affairs program on New Orleans PBS affiliate WYES-TV. His schedule is demanding, but he finds time to offer his skills to several community service organizations.
I think I'm blessed to have gone through some of the things I went through, even though some of it was unpleasant. But if it got me to here, then I think there's something to it when the old folks say God moves in real strange and mysterious ways, because I sincerely believe that I am a wiser and better human being because of what I went through, and because of the way in which I was able to come back and get an opportunity to sort of give something back to the community, to make up for the embarrassment I caused. Because I know what it meant to people to say, we got a black guy on television who looks as good and speaks as well as any of those white guys on television. And I was keenly aware of that in those months subsequent to my being arrested, because it was very obvious to me that, not that I ever really looked at it that way at the time, but I was a standard bearer in our community. I was the first black anchor to make it Monday through Friday, and look what I did. And that was a heavy load to carry for a while. And I think it's one of the reasons why I was so interested when asked after my problems by a couple of groups to get involved with them, like the Committee on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and more recently the Rainbow Day Substance Abuse Center for Adolescents.
What keeps you away from drugs now?
I am not about to be stupid enough to give up what I have had to fight so hard to regain now. And, I look around, and when I was making $50, I rented an apartment. Now I own a house, and I'm comfortable here. I have a beautiful little girl, and I have my much older daughter from my previous marriage. And I am just delighted and thrilled about life.
We're here in the studio with Caiphas Willis, a counselor with the Community Organization for Drug Abuse Concerns in Shreveport, and Everett Jackson, inpatient counselor, Silkworth Center, Parkland Hospital in Baton Rouge. In my conversations with Bell, he talked about being introduced to cocaine as the rich man's high. Why does it seem that the newly rich are more attracted to this drug?
I think that initially the cost for cocaine was very high, and over a period of time, with the advent of crack, which is something we're seeing, it's nothing new, but it's something that we're seeing. The cost for crack is relatively cheap at this time, as opposed to a line of coke was running, or a gram of coke was running somewhere around over $100, and a rock runs about $10, $15 to $20. So we're seeing more and more people using crack because of the finances.
Mr. Willis, we're hearing a lot about crack lately. Is there any reason why crack is more addictive than the other forms of cocaine?
Yes, crack is over 90% pure. I want to say it's about 93% pure. And number two, it's cheaper, which means that cheaper means more frequency of use and more accessible to people who have low incomes or moderately low incomes. So with more people being able to use it, more people are likely to get addicted to it.
And at your center, are you seeing more black people using crack?
Not as yet, but I want to piggyback on something Everett said. He alluded to that the crack was already on the scene, but it was just now being seen. So as yet, we have not seen it in the center, but we're sure that there are people around who are using it. They just haven't made it to treatment yet. We're just seeing the basic cocaine user in treatment right now.
Mr. Jackson, is there a particular personality of a cocaine abuser?
No. I think that what we're seeing is that there's no particular personality. An individual develops a love relationship with, after their first ingestion, perhaps starting to use socially, using it on using it socially, and so this relationship develops. It's a love relationship that takes over about every facet, or every facet of the individual's life once the addiction began. And cocaine is quite addictive. We're seeing people who've used cocaine 3 or 4 times, and the addiction has already set in.
Well, what about the occasional user, Mr. Jackson? Why do some people get addicted and others don't?
Primarily, the individual is looking for that glow, that mellowness, that high, that euphoria, and they keep repeating usage to try and achieve or to try and attain that mellowness, that glow, if you will, the euphoric feeling, and so they keep repeatedly using it to try and attain this.
Mr. Willis, why would someone like Bell, with everything going for him, seemingly, want to risk all of that for a high?
Cocaine is a very pleasurable drug. One of the things that Freud said about us, and of course more have said it than he, but he's the originator of the thought that we as human beings operate on the pleasure principle, that we do things out of wanting pleasure. I've been told many a time by cocaine users that the high from using coke was better than orgasm itself.
Have you heard that also, Mr. Jackson?
I've heard that on numerous occasions.
Okay.
If I may not contradict something he said, but take issue with it when you ask about the profile of a cocaine user, I have seen in outpatient that typically people who are prone to excitement addictions, who just like exciting things, and who feel like there must be some thrill or some excitement in everything that they do, tend to be more susceptible to using stimulants or stimulant-like drugs, cocaine.
Mr. Jackson, is cocaine abuse particularly virulent in the black community?
I think that one of the things that I'm seeing is that that cocaine in the black community, as with other mood-altering chemicals, that it's accessible, it's very plentiful, and people are using. I don't think that it has. I don't think that that there's any line or anything drawn that to say that it's more virulent in the black community than in other communities. But I think the accessibility of it, it's as I said, as with other mood-altering chemicals, it's there, and people are using it quite frequently.
Could you tell us a little bit about the Silkworth Center and what you do there?
I'm an inpatient counselor at the Silkworth Center. I've been at the center since it started about 3 years ago, and I'm an inpatient counselor. One of the things that I do, and I run one-to-one. I have one-to-one counseling with patients after they've gone through the initial phase of our program. One-to-one counseling, group work, do some family work on a limited basis, putting together treatment plans, helping to help the individual to get into or to begin the recovery process during the course of treatment, utilizing the principles of the program of AA and other, using AA and other programs or other things that's needed to help the individual to begin the recovery or to begin the process on the road back to recovery.
I see. So an inpatient facility, is that what Silkworth essentially operates as?
We are, that's when the patient comes in or the individual comes into treatment, and they are housed for a period of time, and our length of stay at Silkworth is 28 days.
How much does something like that cost?
That runs about $7,000. The individual is they're there 24 hours a day. They're participating in a full program, a full program of treatment, lectures, one-to-one counseling, group work, doing some testing, psychological testing, if you will, seeing medical problems are being addressed as well.
Okay. Mr. Willis, the Community Organization for Drug Abuse Concerns is a little bit different from Mr. Jackson's facility. Could you tell us something about how you see your patients, your clients?
The major difference is we're outpatient. Pretty much we're concerned with the individual who can work, who has not lost such control that he is so physically addicted that if he went into a state of not using the drug that he would be seriously ill and would not be able to benefit from outpatient and would need an inpatient program like his. Basically, we teach two things, self-discipline, the making up of the mind that you're not going to use and then not using. And number two, structure. Because as a person discontinues the use of a drug, then a lot of the time if they've spent being high, they're going to have to do something with it. And the old cliches that our parents had about idle time being the devil's workshop certainly would be true, and a lot of people can find themselves relapsing with not structuring their time wisely.
Relapse. Mr. Jackson, we talked before, you mentioned something about relapse. Is it different for a cocaine abuser than, say, for someone who abuses alcohol?
I don't believe so. I think that the compulsion, if there is, okay, the compulsion to use, the going back, looking at the individual's relationship with coke, the compulsion or the urges are just as great, just as strong to use cocaine as it is for the alcoholic or the person that's drinking, because the individual is still looking for that chemical of choice. And
I'd like to know, and I'll open this up to both of you, whether or not there's a difference in treating a black chemical dependent versus treating a white person.
one of the things that I'm seeing is that I think that many times in the course of treatment, in inpatient treatment, there are issues that are not addressed during the course of treatment. For example, with the black patient, the issues of black anger, black pain, black rage. I don't think that these issues are addressed as they should be, because of the time element. Getting into the recovery process, I think that these are some issues that they're doing very early in recovery, that they need to be addressed. They need to be talked about to help the individual to deal with that.
Is that because the white counselors are just a little more reluctant to venture into that area?
I think many of them are.
Mr. Willis, do you see a difference in the type of treatment for blacks and whites in recovery?
I think there has been, and I think good treatment would not have it that way. Anytime you're working with any individual, you want to take into consideration their boundaries, their culture, their own set of lifestyle, which will include much of their upbringing and that sort of thing, and you cannot ignore their culture. And I think good treatment automatically focuses upon that. And I would venture to say that I think that a lot of issues that are pertinent to black clients specifically has not been addressed by maybe white therapists per se. Not out of a discount of the culture, just out of not knowing that or not thinking that was something to address.
Okay, thank you very much. We've been talking with Caiphas Willis, a counselor for the Community Organization for Drug Abuse Concerns in Shreveport, and Everett Jackson, inpatient counselor, Silkworth Center, Parkland Hospital, Baton Rouge. Now, time for a folks flashback.
Everybody's just pose.
In 1984, a group of blacks from North Buxton, Canada, came to Louisiana to discover their roots. You see, they were all descendants of 15 slaves taken to Canada by the Reverend William King.
After inheriting them, he didn't want them to, well, he couldn't really free them in the state of Louisiana because they may be seized and sold back into slavery. Detesting slavery the way he did, he felt his only hope and their only survival really hinged upon him taking them out of here and going on to Canada, purchasing land where he did buy 4,500 acres of ground.
Edna Jordan Smith organized the Canadians tour, a tour that included a trip to the same courthouse in Clinton where Reverend King transacted a lot of his business.
I wanted them to retrace Reverend King's route. I wanted them to see buildings that he had seen.
If you were with us at the top of the program, you know that Folks has a new theme song. The name of the song is Highlife, composed by Maynard Baptiste of Baton Rouge.
Highlife started from an idea that I had about Marvin Gaye. And someone had asked that we get together and try to write a song, which was my father, for your show. And I was thinking about something Marvin Gaye had experienced in his life from a particular album. And I just thought about Highlife. I said, yeah, Highlife. And I came to the piano and I said, now what would reflect something like that? Having a good time right before he split the scene in his death. And so I just fooled around with some of the chords. And I tried to make sure that the chords reflected a mood or some tones that Marvin Gaye would have been into. And that's how I really came up with the idea of Highlife.
Highlife was a collaborative effort between Maynard and his father, jazz great Alvin Batiste.
It's fun where father and son can get together and exchange ideas angrily and joyfully. Like I'll say, no, I don't like that. And he'll say, I like the E-flat minor instead of E-flat, or whatever it is, okay, well, I don't like that. And it's really, you know, fun working with him. And to watch him, he can stay up like till 1, 2, and 3 in the morning, and I'm going to sleep, and he says, hey, man, come on, stamina, just give me a little bit more of your time.
Maynard says his father has had a major impact on the way he, Maynard, approaches music.
At one period in my life, it was a letdown because, as I told you, I can't read the bass clef on the piano. And people used to kid me and say, man, your daddy can do all this. What can you do? You ain't nothing. And it hurt me in some, you know, form and fashion. But as I matured and had more confidence in my music, and that came through my father because he has always influenced me, not only mentally, but physically, his stamina of practicing. I mean, my father used to practice sometimes 20 hours a day. I mean 20 hours a day. And he showed me, he laid like the groundwork for my songwriting because I just pounded and pounded at this thing, and something finally came out, like Highlife.
Maynard has a degree in philosophy, and he explained how his educational background fits in with his music.
I was playing music before I majored in philosophy, but I learned that philosophy, if it is, as they say, the etymology of the word, means the love of wisdom. And I felt that if I could reflect my mind through my music, that it would be a good mixture. I could amalgamate all of these ideals that I had and try to put them into my music. And it's worked pretty well because most of the philosophers that I know, that I admire, like Friedrich Nietzsche and Descartes, well, I know that Nietzsche played music, especially Nietzsche. And I think that it's a good mixture. You can reflect your anxieties, your happiness, your joys, and whatever through music.
Some of Maynard's music has been recorded, for example, on this album, Centennial 1, featuring his father and the 1980 Southern University Jazz Ensemble. He is currently working on another album which will feature Highlife and possibly another song dedicated to the late Marvin Gaye entitled I Believe in You.
Well, that's all for now. Next week on Folks, we'll take a look at some of the problems that teenage parents face. Hope to see you then.